All right, y'all. I'm really excited about today. Go ahead and unmute yourself because we're going to be interactive, okay? Unless you have like screaming happening, then keep yourself muted. Um, or a dog whining at you. So I listened to a lot of Craig Groeschel. Thank you, Michelle, for that recommendation. If you don't know, Craig Groeschel is a pastor who has a leadership podcast, and he's doing excellent work to help grow leaders. He quoted this, and it is what is going to lead into our conversation today. Simon Sinek says, "The leaders who get the most out of their people are those who care most about their people." And then he says, "It starts in your heart before it is felt. You have to genuinely care first." So today we are going to talk all about relationships. That's what we're going to talk about today. I thought we could just have a conversation first about the hard part of relationships in this business. Where has it felt hard at different times? What are instances where you haven't known how to have a relationship with somebody you're leading? Where have you felt the friction of, I'm in relationship with this person, yeah, I'm also leading this person, and what do I do next? What feels hard about relationships in this type of environment? Let's talk about that first.
I think one thing that feels hard is that I could spend a lot of time just talking about life and fun things and what are you doing this weekend? And the pivot to, hey, let's talk about business stuff too, doesn't always feel natural. Sometimes it feels awkward or forced, or maybe that's just how I perceive it. But I always want to be like, okay, so let's just talk about this real quick, you know?
Yeah. Where else?
I think like if you know somebody's going through hard, wanting to be gracious and kind and like just give them the time that they need and not push them. But also like that they have a need because they've shared their need with you. And there is like we do have to have a sense of urgency. So knowing that fine line of loving them where they are, supporting them, but also being like, but like, I know you said this is what you want. Like, do you still want to work towards that?
Mm-hmm.
That's hard for me as a leader.
Yeah. How many of y'all felt that before? Yeah.
I think it's kind of hard to maintain friendships outside of this too. Like, also not feeling like I only want my friends to do Plexus and I'm not going to stop being their friend if they say no to me. But it's like, it's hard to be empathetic to them when you've offered this to them and you still hear all the complaining and things that we know could be changed. It's hard to have those relationships outside of Plexus, I feel like.
Very valid point, Kim.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's hard because in something like this, it feels like you're not supporting me.
Yeah, it feels personal.
Yeah.
Like, I would be like, oh, if your kid was doing a fundraiser, no doubt I would support it. But because this is my business, then I'm definitely more protective and more defensive of it.
Yeah. Rosie, can you hear me yet? Not yet. Just gonna update her
I
on
think
what we're
too,
talking
there's
about.
like this like trust that if you have a relationship with somebody and you've talked to them about their health issues and how this can help, and they don't, or they avoid it, or they do other things, it almost feels like, well, like, do you not trust me in this? Like, you would trust me to give you like wisdom about parenting or marriage, like, or whatever, but like not this.
Yeah. Rosabelle, we're talking about all things relationships today. And we're talking about the hard relationships in Plexus and where that comes up as a challenge where it's leadership versus relationships, or Kim just mentioned sometimes when you have relationships outside of Plexus and like those are hard to maintain when those people aren't a part of Plexus and like don't support you in this. So I was just asking everybody to share where they've felt that friction of like leadership versus relationships. Because that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Even something else that just happened today. Like I have a good friend of mine who joined last month, and then she sent me a message. She was like, "Hey, I just saw that my subscription ran. Like I didn't know that." And I'm like, because I talk to her every day, like I don't really have her on like my customer care program, And so it's like because we're talking about life so much that I forgot to bring that up to her because I have her written down, but it's more like we talk to her every day, so I'm not gonna like put her through the full schedule of things. And so that I had to apologize because I dropped the ball as a business owner because I'm putting our friendship first.
Well, and you weren't even thinking.
No.
Yeah.
And also like I don't feel like I check up on them. Like I'm not gonna be like, hey, so are you noticing sugar cravings? Like it's not just gonna be like a text to her when we're in conversation every day. So I'm trying to figure out that balance because, like you said, Michelle, sometimes it's awkward to be like, and let's talk about Plexus now that you have trusted me.
Well, and there's a huge part for me, right? Like, raise your hand if you've ever felt relationally exhausted. Like, you just don't have room for more friendships. You're like, I am so relationally exhausted. I'm like, I can't deal with that right now. You need coaching. I can do that. But like, dang. Stephanie said some people ghosting you and how that makes you feel, especially when they're friends. Like, yeah. I mean, y'all, relational capacity is a huge thing. And so, I think this is an important conversation, and you guys know it's a huge part of my story, and I'll just share vulnerably here. A lot of y'all may not know the story with Allie's sponsor, Shannon. Okay. Shannon and I were acquaintances at best. We're friends in college, acquaintances 10 years later when she joined me in Plexus. I was very much leading her. She came to me for the business and to help her with the products. We did not have, like Kim and I were friends at church before she joined me. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't have that type of friendship. It was she reached out to me, we hadn't talked in 10 years kind of situation. And we talked all of the time, and I helped her with her business goals and all of those things. And like, I knew that like her daughter was struggling with some like different health stuff, but like we weren't friends. Like we were business partners very clearly. And I feel like even when Allie joined, Allie and I were faster friends than Shannon and I were, because Allie and I'd worked at camp together, and like we just had more of this like history together than Shannon and I had ever had. And things got really not fun there for a season. I'm going to be honest. We were chasing orders, we were chasing achievements, we were, oh my gosh, Allie, so-and-so ordered, but they're not at 100 PV and nobody's getting paid. Can you call her? Like, there was a lot of stuff that was happening that was not life-giving. It was scarcity. It was like, but we all wanted to move forward. Like, we all saw what this could be and we wanted it. And it was draining. And I'll never forget the phone call. I was standing out on the patio, and she was like, hey, like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. And y'all, I was like, okay, like, honestly, not shocked. I kind of didn't want to do it anymore at that point either, if I'm being honest. Like, okay. And we had a quick conversation, and it was like, okay, well, like, I'm gonna be here. And Allie was sharing by that point, and Michelle was sharing, and I had this responsibility there. But hindsight, so about a year later, Shannon and I had another conversation because she was still a customer and Allie was running and we were partnering together. And I just asked her, I was like, hey, like, I'm open for feedback. Can you share with me from your perspective what happened? And she said, Tracy, like my daughter was struggling in her health and I was frustrated as a mom trying to figure things out. And like, you didn't care. Like, you didn't ask me about her. You didn't pause on our business conversations to check in with how she's doing. Like, you didn't see the problem and realize I didn't care about the business in that moment. I was concerned about her. And it sucks when somebody's right. And you can come up with all of the, well, you'd come to me, right? Some of y'all are thinking it right now, probably. You'd come to me for the business. I was here to coach you. I was helping you find success, like all of these things. And I feel like this was my first lesson in feedback, where you just get to sit there and say, you're right. Like, you're right. I have nothing else to say other than you're right. And I am so sorry that I did not slow down enough to see you, to pause, to ask what you wanted, and to do that. And I think that's where everything really shifted for me in this business. And then it kind of went into this season of only focusing on relationships and swinging the pendulum the other way. And so as I was talking with my business coach and talking with Craig Groeschel, who doesn't know he's a mentor of mine, but he is, Allie's like, me too. Yes. The thing that I kept hearing over and over is I feel like y'all, the past 2 months have been upending some systems, figuring some things out, figuring out for each of us, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want to make happen this month? Personal responsibility to the goals that you have, getting you the training, teaching you how to have bold business asks, teaching you how to share the business, teaching you how to help customers in a way that feels life-giving, right? Like we've covered all of those things. And the real next step is relationships. It just is. When you have all of the tools that you need and your business is still not where you want it to be, it's relationships. Everything rises and falls on relationships. And it starts in your heart before it is felt. One of the things that I was asking Stephanie. So Stephanie is my business coach. And I was like, did you see this when you were in network marketing? She was at the top of, I think Arbonne was the company she was with. She built an incredibly successful team there. And she was like, oh, I saw it 100%. And she was like, it's kind of the thing that people either got it or they didn't. And I said, don't you think people can grow in it? And she said, I do think people can grow in it, but I think some people are so singularly focused on finding success that they think they can do it without that. And you guys, if you've seen Emily Gibson's ads lately, it is all, if your upline's telling you about to focus on relationships, they've got it wrong. Like, you don't need to focus on relationships. And y'all, I disagree with that statement. And what I'm going to tell you right now is I hope going to make you disagree with that statement and really see why this is important. One of the things Stephanie said is, and I love this, there are 1,000 ways to make money. Okay, let's just spitball them. If you're a mom who wants to work from home, how can you make money?
You can make things.
Make
Right.
things.
Babysit.
Yeah, babysit.
You can make things. I feel like people make jewelry and sell things on Etsy.
Yes. How can you make money?
You
Bake.
can bake.
Bake. You can
Yeah.
tutor online.
Yes.
You can sell your own plasma.
You could sell it unless you start getting low iron, then they don't want you.
Yeah, you can watch kids from home, like babysitting.
Yeah.
I mean, you can also watch kids from home. Yeah.
How many of y'all see people selling stuff on Facebook Marketplace like it's their job?
You can do like online, like what's it called? Like questionnaires.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
you can, surveys and stuff.
Surveys, yeah.
Amazon influencer type programs they have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My friend does clinical trials at hospitals for extra money.
Yeah.
Yes. Wasn't Tamara Holloway like a secret shopper or something? Or
Yeah.
She did something like that. Y'all, there are thousands, literally thousands of ways to make income from home. Some people don't make the money they want and they jump to other things. But y'all, in this, the reason people stay is relationships. How many of you would have up and gone a long time ago if it weren't for the relationships? Like, I'm gonna be honest. Like, okay, so do we see how important this is?
Yep.
Okay, so what do we do now? I loved this. One thought that I had, I said, Stephanie, is it kind of like 80-20? Y'all know how we talk about posting 80-20? 80% build your like, know, and trust, like influence, add value, right? Those kind of things. 20% sales, posting on social. I said, would that be like a good analogy for business? And she was like, oh my gosh, Tracy, I've never thought of it that way. But yeah. And y'all, when I look at each one of the relationships I have on here, I would say most of them are 80-20. Most of them are 80-20. They're 80% relationship and friendship, and 20%, okay, how can I help you achieve the goals that you have? And even part of that 80%, like, that's this. It's Zooming together. It's being in community together. It's when we hop onto Power Hour to work. That's not actually the 20%. That's the 80%.
Yeah.
And I really am grateful. I feel like, Allie, you joining me, you demanded it of me almost.
I did.
You did. You were like, if you want me to stay, I'm going to need to do this in a fun way, and I need to do it together. And I was like, well, Shannon just left because I sucked at relationships. So yes, Allie Hostin, I'll hop on every day and Zoom with you. That's literally like, you see how the Lord just uses these things and he gives you second chances. Like, and here's another opportunity. And this person's going to tell you what she needs from you. And not that there aren't any boundaries there, right? Like, I feel like Allie knows my boundaries and respects them. It's like a, reciprocal relationship. But I just thought, in your head, that 80-20 thing is a really good kind of margin, if you will, to run by. Stephanie said, if people feel you're communicating with them because they affect your bottom line, you've ruined the relationship. I thought that was a really good statement too, because y'all, I've had that happen to me. Some of you may have had that happen to you, where you're like, do you care if I'm actually going to achieve what I want to achieve? Or do we just care about what's happening there, right? And I think there's this just tendency in this business to say like, well, I'm going to push really hard and people will forgive me. Like, I'm going to push really hard and they'll forgive me. But the thing that I think is putting the business ahead of the human too many times will cause the person to disconnect and leave. It just will. And I think you see that in traditional business. I think you see that in social selling. I think you see that in churches too. Like, if my old church has asked me to volunteer one more time, Kim's going to be like, y'all, they literally told us, you're utilizing childcare, you need to volunteer here. And I was like, that's not how this works. Like, this is volunteering. You don't get to tell me what to do. You get to serve me. And I feel like it's such a similar thing here, where like, you guys are you are here voluntarily. Nobody is making you be here. And so I don't get to tell you what to do. Because if I do that too many times, you're going to be like, forget that. I'm out of here. I'm going to go join a different company. We're seeing this happen some in Plexus. I'm going to close my account for a year and go join a different team. We've seen it happen, y'all. We have. And I think that this is where relationships matter. So being in relationships with people gives you a great window into their life. how are you in relationship with people? What does that look like? What quantifies a relationship?
Two-way.
Two-way?
Mhm.
Two-way.
Like they respond, you
Yes.
talk, they respond, you talk. Like hearing, listening, all that.
You know, Tracy, I almost was going to leave if you guys remember. Like, I literally, if it wasn't for the relationship that I have with Kim, I probably would have. But I was like, you know what? We're in this. We're in this together. We're doing this. Like, I'm not going anywhere. Like, that's not who I am, you know?
Okay,
And
so Stephanie, you're the perfect person actually, because you and Kim did not know each other.
yeah, at all.
How did Kim bring you into relationship? I think that everybody would benefit from hearing that from you.
She got on the phone with me, you know, and she asked the questions and she was concerned, what's going on with your health? You know, Alan was my husband's best friend. He's the one who was, you know, buying from Kim, and he told me all about it, brought me samples, all the stuff. And we got on the phone and we literally talked on the phone for like an hour the first time we talked. And I'm telling you, like, when I say we connected, we just like, we had so much in common. It was ridiculous, you know, and it's just like, you know, that those are your people. When you meet your people, you just know. And that's kind of where we were. And like, I wasn't in it very long. You know, I've done the makeup skincare thing before with Lime Life, and that's where I was comfortable. You know, that's what I know. That's where I was successful. I know I can do this. And the girl that was, you know, trying to recruit me was somebody who was very big in Lime Life at one time. She's an awesome leader. She was offering a lot of things for me to join her, and she dangled the carrot, you know? And I was like, okay, I almost was a hook, line, and sink. And then Kim and I got on the phone and she was just like, you know, I'm going to support you no matter what you do. But like, the fact of the matter is like, I feel like you would do awesome here. I feel like your heart is in this. I feel like, you know, all of these things line up for Plexus, but I'm going to support you no matter what you do. And that was the moment for me that I was just like, you know what, we've already like built so much in this little amount of time. And I want to work with somebody like Kim. I want to work side by side with somebody that is not only going to be my partner, and I know she has her best interest for me, but she's also going to be my friend. And she's somebody who's going to be my lifetime friend. Like, I can already tell this about Kim, no matter if I'm going to be a part of Plexus or not, we're going to be good friends forever, you know? And that's more important to me. So that's where, like, I'm totally with you, Tracy. Relationships are the most important.
Well, and I'll tell you, Stephanie, from this perspective as Kim's leader, when Kim called me and she was like, Stephanie just texted me and she was like, I love her so much. She was like, how do I tell her? It's not that I don't like want you to go. It's that like, we've built this friendship and I feel this camaraderie and this sisterhood. And like, I know that like, there's something when you are working together that you have with people, right? That when you're not, like, it does just shift and change. It's not that you can't be friends anymore, but like, there is that. And I was like, Kim, you just tell her that. You just tell her that you love her and you want what's best for her. But ultimately, like, you see really big things happening because we do. I mean, we talk about that stuff. Like, you're incredible. But I think it is the friendships. And y'all, that is not something that Kim has always been excellent at. That's something Kim and I have been coaching through for a while now. Just,
I'm hungry.
you can have a snack, yes.
What
Just
can I
of
have?
this, like, how do I
Mama,
build these
Mama,
bridges with
can I have a
people,
snack?
not knowing the outcome, right? And it's like, you just have to build the bridge. And like Michelle said, it's a two-way street. Knowing, like, I feel like this is the part of Plexus that is literally like the most biblical. It is the most in line with like what we are called to as children of God, as believers, as humans on this earth, right? Is to be in relationship with others and to open your hands to the possibility of other people without expecting anything in return. And I think it's that posture of constant, like, open-handedness, of constant, like, okay, like, what do you want? What do you want? And y'all, I don't think it ever gets easier. One of the things that Stephanie said that I thought was so interesting is she said, you know, Tracy, a lot of realtors, however you say that, they really talk about relationships in their business. And she was like, but they have an end date. Yeah. They have an end date too. They have an end date when they sell the house or when they help their buyer find a house. Like they really don't see them again until the next time they're ready to sell a house. And so it's this short, limited 6 month, you know, maybe a year relationship. And then there's an end in line. Like there's no end in sight with these relationships that we're doing, that we're focusing on, that we're learning how to grow in. It's not, Kim's not like, okay, I just need to have a relationship with somebody for a year and then it'll all work out. Like, no, it's like, I need to develop a friendship and a camaraderie, not knowing what's going to happen, not knowing if Stephanie's going to walk away at some point, not knowing if life's going to happen or things like that. Holding this so open because the reality of the situation is people come and go and that's okay. And when you can choose to be the one in relationship with the open hands from a place of service, constantly saying, okay, what do you want? Okay, what do you want? Okay, what do you want? What can I help you do? Do you need to take the month off? There's space for that. It's okay if you do. Will you tell me when you're ready to step back in? I mean, I'm going to be a friend to you no matter what, but will you keep me in the loop on that? Okay. Y'all, it's not always perfect. Chelsea got married last weekend. I can be the leader who's like, well, did you do your IPA? You said you wanted this. Or I can be the leader who's like, friend, your only goal was to get married and you did that. High five. And she still enrolled like 3 people during the craziest wedding season of her life. And is having business conversations with her friends and customers. But it doesn't look like checks boxes. It doesn't look like ranking up and achieving. It doesn't look like IPA daily. It looks like me being a friend to her, celebrating her when I see things happen, asking her at the beginning of this month, hey, just checking in to see if you wanted me to help you set goals for the month, or we can totally wait till after all of this is over. And she said, let's just wait till after all of this is over. If that's okay, y'all. People still want your approval in that, right? Absolutely. Kelly walking through losing her mom, y'all. That is hard. Hard for Kelly, hard for all of us, hard for me as her leader, saying like, okay, you know, there is still this tendency inside of me that's like, okay, but did you want to enroll for this month and earn this? And y'all, it's not the time or the place for that. It's not, it's just not. And that's where knowing the priority here, I can pause. I can go to somebody who is a mentor to me, like pretty sure I probably went to Michelle and was like, I don't need to say this, right? And she was like, you don't need to say that. And I was like, okay, I still struggle sometimes. It's not perfect, right? But like having those friends that you can go to and be like, okay, this is happening. Here's what I kind of want to say, but I'm thinking maybe that's not what I need to say. What do I need to say? And then they can be like, well, have you asked how their vacation was? Have you asked how, right, in Kelly's situation, how her dad is doing? Have you checked in on the kids? Have you what have you done that's been the 80 so that you can do the 20, right? It is so crucial. I would say it is the most important thing we can do. Because so long as people feel seen and loved, and like the bottom line is not what you're after, there will be a respect and a camaraderie and a partnership that is able to move forward even in the hardships of life. Y'all, my vision for this business is not that we would always complete IPA every day of the week, okay? It is that we would show up when we can with purpose and grit and focus and big vision, and that we would build businesses that when we need to step back, we can. When we need to take a vacation, we can do that. When we need to be at a parent-teacher conference and not be on the calls, we can do that. When we are having a spouse leave ministry, right? This was Michelle's reality last year. We can do that and support her while she's where she needs to be. 80-20, y'all. 80-20. And if you typically, I'm going to say this, it's not going to look like what it looks like right now. For most of us, like, it probably would be like 24. Like, we're not doing the 100% thing. We're only doing 24%. So it would be like 20% and 4. Like, everything has to expand to make this the right margins. Does that make sense? More relationship, more leadership. Not trying to take what's now and be like, well, this is the relationship I have, so I guess I can only do 20% of leadership, right? Does that make sense, Allie? I see you're like taking
No,
that.
I'm trying to grapple.
If this is the 100%,
Yes.
and 80-20, most of us are operating right here and not utilizing the full vast amount here because we're just not pouring into people in the right way.
Yes.
Maybe it's that we don't have capacity. Maybe it's that we haven't prioritized. Maybe it's that we are so run ragged with our schedules that the only thing we can manage is keeping our head above water, right? So what could be this vast sum is right here, and we're struggling with relationships and leadership because this is all we are creating capacity for. It should look like coffee dates where you don't even talk about Plexus. It should look like going for a walk with your customer where it's not even brought up. It should look like a phone call with family where you just are checking in on them. Like, it should look like 80% of the time you're the person, not the Plexus ambassador. And I think this margin is what's really helped me with family that doesn't take Plexus. Like, there's a 20% that they won't ever understand about me. They just won't. Like, they don't have access to that part of my life, y'all. I have lots of friends who don't take Plexus or take it very sporadically, and it's actually not doing them much good anyways, right? Like, I'll buy a bag of Slim once a year. I'm like, why? Why are you doing this? Right, Allie? Waste of money. But like, the reality is there's never going to be a point where everybody is taking these products. Y'all, if Michelle's sister ever orders Plexus, oh dear Lord, sound the alarms. There will be a celebration. But she probably won't. But that doesn't mean her and Michelle can't have relationship. Because 80% is this, right? And so I think that's where you can just find these places. And I'm telling you, honestly, some of my most cherished friendships are those that have nothing to do with Plexus. Because, and this is not, hear me say this. You guys, like, we're in this together. You don't have to like me, but like, you don't have to follow me. But part of why you respect me is because I've been able to help you move forward, right? Like, it's that camaraderie. And so when I have these friendships that have nothing to do with Plexus, Michelle said it so well. She was at VBS volunteering at her new church, and she was like, Tracy, they liked me. They didn't like me because I was the pastor's wife. They just liked me for me. And like, you guys, they don't like you just because you're a Plexus ambassador, or just because they're your leader. And I'm not saying you like me just because of that. You know what I'm saying? But there is this cherished part for those friendships that are totally outside of this realm, because I get to be me over there. I don't have to be leader Tracy. I don't have to be Plexus ambassador Tracy. I don't have to be goal setting, Tracy, and all of those things that I am on all of the Plexus trips that I take, basically, right? I get to just be me, and they love me for that. And so I think there's so many things in this realm that are really, really important if we can lean in there and make it that. The last thing I want to talk about is this. Relationships are a habit. How does that sentence make you feel? Have you ever heard that before? Have you ever thought about that before? Okay, so let's talk about it.
That actually, like, I just kind of smiled a little bit with that. Like, I'm good at developing new habits. So, like, relationshiping feels hard sometimes, but when you just said it was a habit, I was like, maybe I could do that.
I mean, y'all, I love me some routine. There are moments where I'm like, what do I do? And then I'm like, send birthday messages. And once I send birthday messages, I'm like, I know exactly what to do. Okay, here I go. Go to my stories. Who viewed my stories? Go message. But like, oh my gosh, relationships. I love this. Yeah. I always love that that's part of the winning day too. If you've ever seen it, it's like the first 15 minutes is like, go relate to other people. I'm like, ooh, that's my favorite timer to set. I'm like, I'm gonna go comment and respond. I love it because I just get to like go be a human and engage, which I love.
When it's a habit, it's something that you choose.
I think that makes it feel encouraging because it's like the more you do it, the better you get at it, or even the less you have to think about it to do it.
Hunter, I used to suck at relationships, and now they like bring me in to speak about it. Like, truly, all I could see was the bottom line. And now I'm the one who's like, are you friends with people on your team? And people are like, friends with people on my team. What are you talking about? And I'm like, well, that's probably why you're not where you want to be. Like, okay, you can grow it. So how do you grow your habit for relationships?
Be consistent. Just be authentic, being you, but being consistent in it.
Yeah.
With intentional actions,
Yeah.
even that you don't feel like natural, but you just do it until it's all
Do it
felt.
until it feels natural.
Or fun.
Yeah.
Start with something that feels fun.
I feel like relationships is like the easiest part for me. Like, if anything, y'all, I may not have all my sales that I want to have, but I definitely have planted a ton of seeds. And you know what? They do come back. They might take a year, they might take 2 years, but they all come back. Like, that's something I've learned. And I need to be the best caring person that I can be and be genuine and care for people, genuinely care for them. If they're sick and they tell me like, hey, I've been in the hospital, I'm not messaging them to say, hey, when can you start Plexus? I'm like, hey, how's your health? Like, I've been praying for you, you know? I've gotten bold and I like actually will just hold the message button and pray for people. Like, bow your head and close your eyes and let's pray. Like, let's do this, you know? And I feel like it's just the most, I don't know, to me, the most touching way somebody can love me is to pray for me, you know? So that's a huge thing for me.
Done the same thing. And I think I was telling Rochelle and Stacy this in Vegas of like, there was this part of me of like, oh, is somebody gonna be offended if I pray out loud for them on a voice message? And not a soul has been like, how dare you pray for me? Like every single one of them. And
back.
Liz Ray told me like her and her husband would like listen to them and like cry, like just hearing somebody pray boldly over them. And so that is one of my favorite things too. When somebody shares that things are hard, like I do, I just straight up will pray. And it's something I've kind of gotten out of the habit of. But yeah, I had somebody today who was like, I got my products, but I'm fighting this sinus infection. I'm like, oh, please try this colloidal silver sinus spray. Has nothing to do with plexus. And she's like excited to go try it. And I was like, I just loved that girl. I don't even know her, but I was like, you better go try this because it works. And I feel like that helped build trust, that I was like giving her something, I don't know, like this worked for me. And it wasn't plexus.
Well, and
Right.
now you can check in on her in another day or two and see how she's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think y'all, the piece of advice there is lead with questions. Every time you start with them in mind, it's going to go well. And I think the thing that I do, I don't know if y'all do this, I get impatient. And so it's like, well, if I can just put everything in one message, then when they see it, they can see it all, right? Does anybody else do that? Or you like send a message and you're like, hey, Kim, like, I just wanted to check on Moose. How's he doing? And like, Kim doesn't respond. And you're like, and by the way, like, did you want to do a coaching call? You know, or whatever. Like, I think we try to like, yeah, like be efficient in it. And like, I don't know. I think sometimes it's like, I don't know what people want from me. And so I just want to kind of give it all. Right. And so remember that. As long as you're communicating, you matter to me. You, not your business, you matter to me. Tell them how much they matter and then empower them to make decisions. Most leaders try to convey that they are important, but the best leaders make you feel like you are important. That was from Craig Groeschel, not me, not Tracy. That's the whole thing. Most leaders want you to think they are important, but the best leaders make you feel important. Are you making the people who joined you feel important? Whether they're customers or business builders, are you making them feel important? I am certain after Kim and Stephanie's call, Stephanie was like, Kim thinks I'm important. Like, Kim thinks I'm a big deal. She thinks I can do this. And what Kim didn't do is say, Stephanie, but I'm such a good leader. But Stephanie, like, I helped you so much. But Stephanie, like, I'm gonna do that. No, it was all you. You are this, you are that. You are able to make any decision you want. And I need you to know that I think you're incredible and you could be massively successful here. And I would love to partner with you in that. But ultimately, the decision is yours. She empowered Stephanie to make a decision. She didn't say, and if you leave me, I'm gonna delete your number from my phone and you better never call me again. Right? Like, y'all, and here's the beautiful thing. There is room for healing and there is room for growth. If you're listening to this and you're like discouraged or frustrated or like, ugh, I've gotten it wrong multiple times. I've gotten it wrong. Welcome. You're in good company. Y'all, just last week, actually at the end of the month, I messaged Shannon because there was something in her business I needed to let her know about. First, I checked in on her and said, hey, how are you guys doing? How's Tyler? How are the kids? Are you planning to homeschool this year? And then we talked about business. And then the ending is always this. Well, hey, I don't know what your situation is right now or what's going on in your life. But what I do want you to know is that there's always a place for you here. That's the message. There's always a place for you here. That's the message for every customer. That's the message for every ambassador. I see you and there's a place for you here. Y'all, we're not going to get it right every time. But I think a few things, if you take away from this call, 80-20, understanding what others want so that you can help them do that. All those monthly build goal sheets, that I know what Kim wants this month. I know what Michelle wants this month. I know what Allie wants this month. I can help them do that. That feels like service. That feels like abundance. That feels like leadership. 80-20, helping people know what they want and you knowing what they want so you can help them do that. And then creating a new habit around relationships. Well, this is where voice memos really come in hand. If you can start practicing talking to people. One of the things, Michelle probably still has her list of questions that she would ask moms at the park when she moved to a new city. And y'all, those types of things, how to build relationships, go to the playground, take your earbuds out and talk to people. Ask questions, ask good questions, wait to listen with no agenda, no like I'm having these conversations to build a new business builder. I am having conversations to practice having relationships with people. I'm joining a Bible study at my church to practice having relationships with people. One of the common things that I've heard from a lot of people is COVID destroyed people's ability to have relationships. It took us out of these relational settings for like 2 years and we forgot how to have relationship with people. We just did. It's like across the board because I deal with it with other people too. I'm like, do you know how rude that just sounded? Like, oh my goodness, you do not know how to have a relationship with people, right? Some of your customers don't know how to have a relationship with people, right? They just don't. They're not meaning to be mean. They don't know. And so you get to practice. So think about what's one habit you can start working on to really intentionally build relationships. One of the things, Craig Groeschel, he talks about 8 habits of great leaders. And habit number 4 is being a you first leader. I am a leader who loves people and I will start every interaction with the other person in mind. Every interaction with the other person in mind. The second somebody thinks that you are talking to them for your gain, you've broken trust. Again, it's not going to be perfect and you don't need to fear that. But if we can look at this and say, this is literally the most important part of our business. It is. It's the most important thing. Then we can start taking action to really improve in that way. So my challenge for you before we go is to message a few people today. Message like 3 customers and think through something they told you or something they shared on Facebook and ask them about it with no agenda in mind. Hey, I saw you guys were in Branson. How did it go? What fun things did you do? Y'all, for me, that feels absolutely weird because I actually do want something from you and I'm having to lay that down in order to have this conversation. That, if you want to know how selfish Tracy's brain works, like that's it. Like it is constantly laying down what I want from everybody. That is the sinful battle. It is. It is choosing to lay that down every single day to say, hey, Kim, I saw you and Rollin went here. How was that? Did you guys have fun? And y'all, it's because I'm a selfish person. It's because I have a sin nature. It's because I want what I want, right? I think we just get better at saying what I actually want is to be a great leader. What I actually want is to have these incredible relationships with people that have bridged trust, that have built trust, where it is a 2-part thing. And so there is going to be active choice here, especially in the beginning, an active choice to say, hey, Hunter, how's it going in your new neighborhood, right? How is Sam doing on his new baseball team? Right? Like the active choice to make that matter first.
Do you keep doing that? Like if you've tried and you don't get anything back. And you're like, cause I start to tell myself, oh, I bet they think I'm just reaching out to them so that I can like continue this conversation. Cause I hear Christina Williams in my head. No, but like people don't mind an agenda. They don't want a hidden agenda. And so, but like I have tried like to reach out and be like, hey, I saw you guys went on vacation. How was that? And then it's nothing.
I
So
think
I just continue to,
not everybody's gonna want to be in relationship with you.
right. Yeah.
So like that's the reality of the situation too. Not everybody's gonna want to be in a relationship with you. And so kind of reading the room and knowing that, and then knowing there are going to be people that it is just business agenda.
Yeah.
It just is. That is not the majority.
Mhm.
There are gonna be people where you like I followed up with a friend yesterday. I was like, hey, I don't know if you're like me and really busy, but I don't want to be annoying and fill up your inbox. Could you tell me what you're thinking? And she was like, I am so sorry, I'm terrible. Like sometimes if I play that card of like, I really don't want to bother you, like that's not my goal. So if you could tell me kind of where you're at or how you're doing on things, that would be really helpful. Because
I started.
honestly, at this point, it's starting to feel really weird.
Mhm.
And then if they don't respond to that, I think you put them on your calendar for like quarterly check-ins.
I think that message right there, Trace, needs to go on a board. That's solid right there. Like, man, I really don't want to bother you. And I don't know if you're just busy, but can you let me know what you're thinking? That is just, what is that, 3 sentences? Anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
just gonna say that out loud. That was good.
I think too, whenever you're like, if you're trying to get good at relationships, then just let that be the goal. And there are some people that are like my potentials, that is the goal. Like they wanted information about Plexus. So not that I want to compartmentalize things, but I also want to keep the thing that actually is the reason. Like I don't need to murky it up. If they ask me about my pink drink, I can talk to them about it and not pretend that I want something else from them. But what happened like this past year is that I started looking for people I really want to like hang out with. Like, who do I want to go take a walk with? And then say, hey, let's go take a walk. Or who do I want to go and like meet up at the park and say, like, let's go do that, instead of only focusing on conversation that led them to the products. Right. So I think for me, it was taking off the like what Tracy said, like my agenda, but really like genuinely like talking to people that were responsive and they were people I wanted to talk to. And then, separating that in some ways from like potentials that liked my story.
Well, and that's the age-old question of, do I spend time relationship building with the agenda of Plexus in mind? And I don't think you do.
Right.
Yesterday when I was leading the power hour, one of the things we did for 15 minutes was just reply to stories from people who weren't a part of Plexus. And I could see some eyes like, but are we going to tell them about Plexus? And I was like, no, like you're just going to practice talking to people. And like, that's how you relationship build. And then there will come a time where they like a post or they whatever, or they've seen enough stories that you're going to open the door about Plexus, right? There will come a time for that. But I think if you have like an agenda in mind, you're not going to be building a genuine relationship there. And so setting times for things and just practicing that, practicing talking to the moms at the park and friending them on Facebook, and knowing that like in due season it'll come. I think if the agenda is to build a relationship so they join Plexus, you're missing the point. And that's hard. That's like a hard truth, right? The agenda has to be to learn to build relationships regardless of whether they join your team or become business builders. It's to excel in relationships, like be friends with people, like regardless of what the outcome may be. You just don't know, right? You don't know. I mean, Alicia and I are still friends. I respond to her stories, and she was a gold ambassador and decided to walk away. Like, I still check in on her. I still check on my friend Kenzie. Like, I love them. We are good friends. not best friends and we don't do life together. And we aren't close like we were when they were doing Plexus, right? There's a difference there. It's not going to look the same when somebody steps away or doesn't do Plexus as if they are. It's kind of like when you're in a sorority together, right? It's going to be different than people you're not in a sorority with. It just is. And so, but if the agenda can be, I just want to love people because that's what God's called me to. Like, I just want to see people. I want to lead people well. And that means leading with the relationship first, because as somebody says, much smarter than me, people don't care what you know until they know that you care. They just don't. People don't care what you know until they know that you care. And so if we can make leadership more about helping others achieve what they want to achieve and less about achieving what we ourselves want to achieve, I think that's going to serve us all well. I think it's going to show this is a commitment without a firm timeline. This is a destination, not a short road trip, right? Like, this is figuring it out as we go and learning and growing and pivoting and saying, I'm not always going to get it right. But the last piece of homework, so send messages to your customers. And then I want you to have somebody in your inner circle that you can pause before you message. So just pause before you send a message to a team member or before you send a message to a dream teamer or things like that. Pause and say, do I need to lead with the relationship or do I need to lead with the business? Somebody in your side who you can say, oh my gosh, this just happened with my teammate, but we're supposed to have a coaching call. What do I say when I message her, right? Like, what do I say? How do I see the person? And not like, I think if we can all have somebody that we can go to and just have that layer of accountability, it's going to be really, really important as we grow, because y'all, the longer you do this, the more relationships you have. The more relationships you have, the more important it is that you kind of know what you're doing to have those relationships, because then you're going to have to teach others how to do that too. And that's why I think a training call like this is so important, because some people, relationships come really naturally too. Other people have to work harder on it. And other people have to say, I actually don't have capacity for any relationships right now. And that's probably why my business is where it is, because of that. And so wherever you find yourself in that gamut, I want you to lean into relationships. I want you to work hard towards the goals that you have. Figure out the goals of your teammates and help them achieve that. And I'm going to stop the recording real quick.